Well, hello everyone. This is your old pal, the Boogeyman, welcoming you to an all new episode of Faux Real. This one gets spicy and spooky because on this episode I talk with professional dominatrix, Mistress Justine, and you won't believe what we get into. You're not going to want to miss this one, guys. Before I get going with our conversation, I plead with you, I beg you, I ask you to please get out there and vote however you can. If your state allows mail in ballots, use them. If you got to go stand in line, do it. We have to change the tides of our current government. It's totally wackadoo, and we need to build a safe harbor, and we have to do it together. So, for resources on helping you to get your ballot where it needs to go to votevotevote.com, or if you're in California, go to vote.ca.gov. I would also like to direct your attention to the show's Patreon, which is patreon.com/faux real. Guys, Patreon is a site that allows content creators to offer listeners and contributors some very, very cool and unique incentives for this show. Boy, I have some really cool stuff coming your way. You won't believe some of the guests I have coming up, and some very cool spookiness coming up for, I don't know what that voice was about on spooky season, but some really cool Halloween surprises. And so if you go to the Patreon, you're going to have early access to some video clips and the opportunity to suggest upcoming guests. And I'm cooking up some really cool stuff. So please check out the Patreon. Contributor tiers start at just $3, $3 measly dollars. For the price of a couple donuts, you can get some very exclusive and unique incentives for this show and all of the cool guests I have coming up. So, without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Mistress Justine Cross. I was watching all your various videos, not those kind of videos.
You're bored.
Oh, I want to get into all of it, definitely. So you have been a professional BDSM consultant and professional dominatrix for about 10 years. You mentioned that a friend gave you I Was a Teenage Dominatrix, the book by Shauna Kenny, at some point, and that sort of spurred your interest in the field, but you sort of came upon it much later. What was the actual origin of you pursuing this career?
What is the origin story of Justine? Well, it's funny. I have the book.
Oh, you've got it right there.
Right here. I Was a Teenage Dominatrix, Dominatrix memoir. Pretty amusing. This is one of the first ones by Shauna Kenny, but, like a lot of memoir, it's sort of like, the sex work or being a dominatrix is the vehicle to a story about a coming of age or working through a struggle or something like that. So this book was given to me in high school by my friends who I'm still friends with. And, but then I went to college. I lived in Spain for a year. And then after college, I graduated. I have degrees in literature and psychology. I moved to California, and then I Googled Los Angeles and Dungeon, and because I had some friends who were also DOMs, and then I found a place to work, and then I started working there, and it went on from there. I mean, because really, what else are you going to do with a liberal arts education?
Absolutely. I'm still trying to figure it out.
This, right? Yeah, podcasting.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So it sort of just came from general research and, your curiosity.
Yeah, I should also say that I did this in my personal life. Like, I enjoyed these things, but it just kind of fell into my lap as a profession in terms of doing it part-time, and I'm having another full-time office admin, like corporate position. And then just eventually various recessions just kind of laid me off enough where
Sure.
I just then
All
started
the
doing.
general soul suffocating jobs that we all have, and are like, yeah, I'd like to do something a little bit more fun.
Yeah, well, this is certainly a lot more lucrative and a lot more fun. And it was
Mhm.
definitely a lot better for my mental health because, I could afford mental health care. No, it was so much better. And so anyway, but I eventually just started doing this full time as I was getting laid off from other positions. And I just decided, okay, I'm going to try doing this full time for a little while. We'll just see how it goes. And then I'll kind of reassess and see what maybe like other real world jobs I want to get. And then I never went back. So, and this became beyond a job and a total career and business and an empire and all of these things. So
And now you run both Dungeon East and Dungeon West. You're taking over the entire LA dominatrix scene, the BDSM scene. That's
yeah,
pretty incredible.
LA is my bitch.
Speaking of bitches, I had a lot of fun watching your slave Jack and some of the trials and tribulations that he's gone through. He mentioned that he once masturbated outside of your presence, and you taught him a very serious lesson for that.
I did. Should I tell you the story now?
I'd love to hear all about it. Yes, please.
Yeah, it's funny. I was actually just spending time with him the other night, and I mentioned that to him, and I said this was one of our most memorable times together. But basically, he's been my slave for 9 years now. In January, I mean, after 9 years or so, we sort of our relationship has changed. He's sort of like he is my friend, he is my family, and things like this. But so he was for a time period in chastity full time, which is why our relationship lasted so long. But so he was in chastity and he had to be out of chastity for some reason, like going to the doctor or something. And then he jerked off while he was out of chastity, which he wasn't really supposed to do. But when I asked him if he did that, he said yes. So I said, okay, fine. And I tied him down, for our session. I tied him down to the bondage bed table and I let him, hump himself on a Hitachi until he came. And then he was thinking, wow, I really got off easy. But then I proceeded to mercilessly cane him up and down his entire body. And he was screaming, he was crying, like snot was coming out of it. And because it hurts a lot more after you come, because before you come, I can get you to do anything I want. Sign over your house, your life, your cock. You're like, do anything to
Absolutely.
me. Like, fuck me with the soldering iron. I don't care. But then after you're like, what? Oh my God, who is this? Why am I tied down? Why am I wearing a dress? Why am I wearing this lipstick? Who are you? Where are we? So after you know,
Blue balls are the most straining of tortures.
mm-hmm.
Well, I will share with you. I've never played at either of your facilities, but I have done a bit of play at the Dominion, and I worked with a Switch both of the times that I went, and had a lot of fun with some canes and wanding and.
Wait, you're telling me that you live in the Los Angeles area and you have not been to
I
either
know.
of my dungeons?
I know. I
Aren't
know.
you lucky that I
It's
can't
about
walk
time.
through right now and cane the shit out of you? But sometimes punishment is its own reward. So,
Listen, I mean, as soon as the pandemic is over, uh, I'll be having all sorts of fun, I'm sure. Speaking of that, I know you've moved. I read on your website you're not really doing any in-person play, which is, uh, you can't really do that right now, and that's the best practice. And you've moved a lot of it to your other platforms. Have you still been able to, um, you know, make the revenue that you were making before? Are you able to still bring in clients as easily that way?
yeah, it's I'm in the middle of shifting so much. At the beginning
We
of
all
this,
are.
I realized, yeah, aren't we? I had to pivot so quickly and do so much. But because I was able to work so quickly and so hard, and also my partner is working with me and for me, and also my slave is doing part-time work for me. Like I was able to do all of these things. Business is shifting, things like this. My my numbers remain the same, but as you know, Dungeon West is closing on October 15th. I'm not sure when this is coming out. Oh, you don't know? Well, you're the only
Oh,
one.
that's an exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I'm so sorry to
Yeah.
hear that.
Yeah, no, it's really okay. Like it's I'm not using the space in person, and other people are not using the space in person in the same way. And looking at the landscape of what's going to happen for the next year, it doesn't make sense to hold on to a brick and mortar space if people aren't using it, and especially I'm not using it. So, it's mixed feelings, but based on what's happening, and no one's really been in there that much for like 7 months.
It
It
just
feels
doesn't make
fine.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just feels fine, and it's like I'm, I have that other dungeon. I have a whole other space. I'm doing all of my things online, so I'm moving my things to a way that makes more sense to me. And based on everything that is happening right now, it feels a little bit better to be more compact and things like that. So yeah, I mean, 2 more weeks, and then we're gonna have a huge sale. So
Cool. And you can always extend and expand that location, right?
yeah, I mean, I've been running 2 dungeons in Los Angeles for a really long time.
That's a
No
lot.
one else has ever done that. And I really can't believe I've done this so long at such a high volume. And now I'm like, wow, I want to go on vacation, but there's nowhere to go. So yeah, I'm feeling fine about this choice. Like, we've had the best times. And I mean, I really can't think of another. I mean, certainly there's other spaces that have been open longer, but I really don't think there's any other space in the world that is so much a part of the public consumption, because of all the things that we did there in terms of different events and photo shoots. But it's been in so many movies and TV shows and magazines and podcasts and all of these things, not just adult related or porn related, really mainstream things. So it's probably the best known dungeon in the world, whether you know it by name or not. So I feel like more than happy with what I've accomplished in 8 years there. So
Which is a hell of a lot. And
yeah,
one of those things is a Janelle Monáe music video for "Make Me Feel." How cool
that
is that?
wasn't
How
at
was
the
working with
dungeon.
Janelle?
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. How was that experience? How was working with Janelle?
Well, I didn't really see her much, but that actually wasn't at the dungeon. But I was hired to be on set to supervise the latex vac bed situation to make sure no one died. So of course, like, she's not really in there, and it was so interesting going back and forth with people because they wanted me to just supervise it and make sure everyone was okay, which was fine. But they're like, yeah, we'll just throw someone in there. And I said, no, you can't just like throw someone in there. It's like a really intense bondage, and you can't just throw someone in there. It has to be someone who knows what that experience is. And you can't just, it can't just be like, hey, Mike, just hop in there for us. I mean, it had to be a female. But then when I got on set, it was really funny because it ended up being another dom that I knew, and I said, oh, it's you, okay, great, it's fine. So she got in there and she was down. And so, but actually I have this latex hot pink vac bed that you know was totally in the video, and it's mine now, but it could be yours because I'm selling it at the dungeon sale.
Ooh.
Because latex has a shelf
Runs to wallet.
yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, because latex has a shelf life. I don't use latex back beds. I'm not into them, and it would be much better giving it to somebody, or selling it to somebody else who is going to get a lot of happy, useful time.
So that's where my line is crossed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do anything that has to do with suffocation, because
you're right.
So like I can do and have done like ball gags and things of that nature, but on a very limited time. Like I can only hold them in for 5 to 10 minutes, and then it's got to go, because it's more of a psychosomatic situation, I think, than it is actually losing a breath. But I have such a trauma around that because I've had so many asthmatic situations over the years that it just, I can't deal. But all the other things are quite a lot of fun.
Mhm.
While I was working with the Switch, she pretty much immediately dubbed me a pain slut. Well, what can I say?
Mhm. My favorite kinds of slots. Yeah.
It's awesome. I have an entire list of things.
Mhm.
I'm really excited to have you here. I just want to say because um, I have I haven't, other than my playtime at the Dominion, I haven't done it a lot in practice uh, with my romantic partners,
Mhm.
but it's talked about a lot. I actually have been dating someone virtually
Mhm.
that will be she doesn't live in the country. She's
Mhm.
actually coming to see me in
Mhm.
a couple weeks now,
Oh,
and we've
exciting.
been talking about a lot of things, because she's very kinky like I am, and very open to you know, having naughty fun time and all that that entails. And so I want to ask you, for meeting a new kinky partner
Mhm.
for the first time, what is something that you suggest as kind of a starter?
Yeah, well, that's a really great question. I made something as part of my BDSM 101 course called the Concise Kink Worksheet, which is available for free on my website, and I can send you the link for it. And that's a one sheet, and it just goes through different questions. It's not like a lot of other things are lists like likes, dislikes, or yes, maybe, no. It's not, and you just check things or list them. It's not like that. It goes into more depth. So it does things like, it breaks it down into like, who, what, why kind of thing. So, it'll say some questions are, how do you want to feel? What names do you like to be called? What sort of kink acts do you enjoy? And then it also goes into basic safety information, like, do you have any medical things that I should know about? Are there triggers that you have? What does it look like when you're triggered? What pronouns do you like to use? Things like that. And then at the end, it asks the sort of rounded up, closing the loophole question. Is there anything else you would like to tell me that you think I should know? And it's only one sheet. It has, I think, maybe 15 questions on it. So that's more in depth than I would do in terms of like pickup play or possibly with a client, but it goes fast. It's not like a long thing. So it's a good jumping off point, and those things can change with different people and different partners and certainly at different times. So, but that's a good kind of check in and see where you're at, check the temperature thing.
Absolutely. And you always want to check in with your partner constantly too.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
Bondage or no, it's always good to check in with your partner
Yeah.
and ask how they're feeling, and ask how, did you enjoy that? Did you not enjoy that? Um, that's all of that is really important.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, definitely doing check-ins before, during, and after a scene. Yeah.
mhm. um, on your YouTube, you say, oh, wait. Oh, no, I already talked about that. Sorry. Um, oh, I know you work with a lot of different implements and ropes and knots. What is your favorite like rope to work with? What is your favorite style, or that kind of, what do you usually use, like say with a new client?
Mhm. Yeah, it's been quite a while since I've been with people in person.
Sure.
But I actually don't do a lot of rope and bondage things. I mean, I do use rope sometimes, but I wouldn't say that's like really my
Your
toolkit.
go-to. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, generally, it really depends on the client. The sort of things that I'm more well known for and the things that I really enjoy are, total power exchange, like really invading someone's life and, taking control over everything, like not just their bank account, but like making sure they're exercising and eating right and stuff like that. So that's what I really mean. And, other things are a lot of electroplay. So using Eros tech. I also really love tease and denial, foot fetish, fin dom stuff. That's like, pretty basic kinds of things. So, in terms of equipment, I generally use like Eros tech. I really love the pinwheel. It's like I feel like it's one of those things you first get when you're first doing stuff, and then you forget about it, but it's still just so amazing. Even it's like a tiny little thing.
What is that?
The pinwheel? Oh, it's like the Wartenberg wheel, the little like silver thing with little spikes on it, the wheel.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I wasn't familiar with that. Cool.
They're great. They're great. They can be very teasy or painful,
like
or
little mini cat of nine tails kind of thing.
No. It's metal. So just look it up. It's literally just like a little like, yeah, it's tiny. It's like this big. So I mean, it's like a handle, and then like that, So those are some of the, and of course I really love canes. So
I've heard a lot about your enjoyment of caning, especially from Jack. Let's see. I asked a fellow friend who also does a lot of who does bondage work, and she wants to know how you vet your new clients.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is sort of in the before times. In terms of the client vetting, I asked them an abbreviated list of questions of what we just talked about, like in terms of things that they enjoy and what they want to do. Honestly, most of my clients that I would see in person would be people that I've seen before. They're probably 90% people that I've seen before. So I'm really pretty much not in a gray area of BDSM. Like, I'm not doing things that are by law considered illegal or more illegal than other things. You can't consent to violence, but unless you're a male boxer or whatever. But anyway, so and other things. So I would ask for references and deposits, and there's various other tracker sites that you can track people on in certain ways, and some of them are available for sex workers only, and some of them are really available to the general public. So yeah.
All right, I have to ask, what is one of the strangest requests that you've received that you obliged?
Well, I mean, it's really hard to say, where do you draw that line?
Right.
I don't really find too many strange requests anymore. But I think one of the ones that I've had that, and I've talked about this before, but because it really is one of the most unique ones. It's a client who had a roasting fetish. And that I didn't actually roast him, of course, but we did a role play where I turned my bondage bed into like a metal tray. I put tinfoil on it and then wrapped it with saran wrap. And I think I got him an apple, and so he brought some stuff too. So he brought of course, what girl doesn't have a meat tenderizer in her dungeon? So of course I had that, but he brought a basting, like a turkey
one of those brushes,
they're like, like a syringe, like the lesbians, that, and like olive oil and pepper and stuff like that. And he also brought what he thought was a zucchini, because he wanted me to put that in his ass.
Yep.
And I was really excited, and he whispered to me, and he's like, "It's a zucchini." And I whispered back, "It's a cucumber." And also, I'm not putting that up your ass because it doesn't have a flared base, and I'm not going to the ER with you. So we didn't do that. But that was really fun. I've seen him a couple of times, and it's very interesting what he likes, because it's about that role play. And then he also really likes talking about like other people coming to like eat him, and my other girlfriends being there. And then he wanted to hear about like recipes from my mother and my grandmother, and there's this lineage. It was really interesting. We were jumping the shark. It was like all kinds of fun stuff. And so that was definitely one of the more unique ones. So
wow, he really did That's quite involved.
Hmm.
Wow, interesting. I'm so fascinated by those kinds of pleasures and those types of fetishes and things. I've never really been a foot guy. I know there's a lot of foot fetish people out there, um, but yeah, it really does cover the gamut. Thank you for sharing that with me. That's I'm just imagining, him being patted down with butter and um,
Yeah.
like corn on the cob. Um, uh, I've seen a number of shows that deal with BDSM and bondage, including like Bonding on Netflix. Have you seen these shows? And if so, like which ones sort of get it right, or do any of them get it right?
Well, I think that we all know that television is never really getting it right. I mean, at least those of us who live in Los Angeles know this because we're all like working in the industry and we know
Mhm.
that it's not real, even reality TV. Unfortunately becomes dangerous because most people do not live in Los Angeles and do not, are not part of various communities of which shows, are showing you things except for but the problem is that most people will watch a doctor show and they know what a doctor is and they know what a hospital's like and they know that what the drama that's happening on House and Grey's Anatomy is not real because you have something that you always can compare it to because most people have been into a hospital and have been to a doctor. The problem
You
with
would hope so.
I'm sorry, what?
You would hope so before
Yeah,
watching that kind of thing. Yeah.
for the most part. However, when you get into these things that are like BDSM or a dominatrix, most people don't know what a dungeon is, don't know what a dominatrix is, don't really have a lot of experience about BDSM. So the way that they portray these things, unless it's a documentary or reality TV, which isn't always very real, as we all know, it becomes very dangerous because this is not what it is or how it should be. And Bonding on Netflix was one of the worst. And I think I only made it through a few episodes because it was so terrible and dangerous.
Yeah.
And it in so many ways, and I think it was in the first or second episode where they showed a scene where she had him tied down to the table
Mhm.
and he has something around his neck and he could have died. I mean, he should have like choked himself out or passed out, and that was extremely dangerous. And it's just so sad that like no one on the show realized how terrible and sad it was. And again, it was written by a cis het white man who had nothing to do with sex
Of
work.
course.
Again, he said that this was his experience based on what he did in college. So, maybe it was, but we don't need more people that are not us telling our story. We don't need non-sex workers telling our stories. And for like the love of Christ and everything that's holy, like I don't think we need to hear cis het white men say anything else. Like for really like the rest of the millennia, you've
Yeah.
spoken,
I
we've
know.
heard it, we don't like it. And so that's terrible. And there are some other shows that I enjoy, but they're sort of like weirdo ones and they're more in art. Like Blood Sisters is a documentary that was really wonderful. Preaching.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
That was extraordinarily strange. The entire window closed out, but it's still recording.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Well, everything I said was brilliant. So basically
Yes,
I
it
ended
was.
with everything. So I just asked you if there was any other examples that called to mind or other
I'd
things.
never heard of Blood Sisters. That's very interesting. I sort of look out for it wherever I see it because I'm always very curious about, because I've watched a lot of those dumb medical dramas too, and I'm also very curious. My partner that's coming to visit me is a doctor, and so we talk about that a lot. And we've actually had that conversation as to, which ones really get it right and which ones really don't. And she she said, she had to stop watching Grey's Anatomy after a while because it was just ridiculous. And House, completely over the top, of course,
Sure. But it's
all that
entertaining.
stupid stuff.
Yeah, and it's hard because they do hire consultants, but I don't know why, because then they just throw it out the window of whatever it is they're going to do anyway. And and because I've worked on some, well, I mean, the Janelle Monáe video or other, I've been hired as a consultant to work on various sets for shows and things. And I'm always very, very clear that we can make it look good for TV, but we also need to make it look safe and not ridiculous. And, the more control I have over something, they understand that. But I'm not responsible for the final cut. I'm not always the star of the show or even guest starring on the show. I'm like, like a 5-minute segment on some of these shows and stuff. So yeah.
But you're the best consultant to have on set if they're going to have a consultant because you've been doing it for so long.
Yes, I am. And, I definitely enjoyed working in productions, but not right now.
Yeah. I got a very random PA job last week on this renovation show. And I wanted to be on set so badly because I haven't been on set so long, and it was nice to be around people. It was magical to be on set, but it was also a renovation show. So, I was a PA, so I was doing all the bitch work, and boy, did we do a lot of it for 12 hours, carrying, various pieces of wood and, planks. And at some point we were, myself and another PA were putting down this, I don't know, some sort of cover on the ground to hide the logos on whatever they had down already. And we were just, listen, we're PAs. We don't know what the fuck we're doing. And so we're taping down this, whatever it was. And the guy from the construction crew comes over and he's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? You gotta do it. And he pushed us out of the way. I'm like, well, why didn't you do it yourself in the first place? And stuff, but having said all that, it was fun to be on set. I really, and to have other humans with breathing distance. Man, let's see. Have you ever been in a, I know that you very much keep control of all situations, but have you ever been in a situation where it went a little awry and you had to, take action in that situation?
Well, I think the couple of instances that call to mind of, when sessions go awry, sometimes there's a safety issue that needs to be addressed, because people pass out. Men fall to their knees, to the floor around me. What can I do?
With pleasure.
Something like that. And I am CPR first aid certified, or I was. I need to get recertified, but I'm not really around people right now. So I don't know how they're doing that in quarantine. But generally I am. So no one's died on my watch. I don't know what's happened to them now. I've been telling people on Twitter every day to wear their masks. I don't know. And then I think sometimes another thing that happens in a session is when someone has a fantasy and they think it sounds really good, and then they get there and they realize this isn't really what they want. So then I have to dial it back or retool it, or sometimes the moment is just over and they're like, I'm sorry, I thought I really wanted that, but I don't, let's just go to dinner. Or sometimes people are having a really hard time to, get into it because of various other things. And then, sometimes they need to make the choice to go harder actually to get them in or whatever. And, but it's two people in a room. It's we each have to, I'm bringing 110%, but you got to at least bring 50. So I understand that sometimes people are not able to get there. That's rare, but those are the few occasions where I felt that something has gone awry and, how to get that back. But I'm very good at getting that back and dialing that in and figuring out how to get someone where they need to be.
Right. And it takes a lot of vulnerability to, even especially, your first or second or even third time, engaging in something like that. I know the first time that I went to play at the Dominion, I I was excited, but also very intimidated because that was my first experience of anything like that, outside of, inside my mind, of course. So,
Yeah.
um,
It is. It's a lot. I mean, I always tell people when they're in either of my spaces, Dungeon East or Dungeon West, that it's a lot. I say it's a lot to make the call, email me. It's a lot to come into the space. And then you're here, and all of a sudden you're here, and it's like everything you've ever wanted, but also it's really intimidating. It's a huge space. It has everything you want. And you're like, oh my God, over here, over there. And it's like your mind is blown, and it's like you're kind of overstimulated. And a lot of times, sometimes people can't even get off or get to the subspace they want to be in because they're so
their mind
overstimulated,
is running in circles.
overwhelmed. And I always say, like, don't worry, that happens all the time. It's a lot to get in here. It's very nervous, and even though it's everything you want and you're excited, you're kind of overexcited. I mean, usually people are so excited they've jerked off several times before they got there, and I'm like, there's nothing left, my man. There's nothing left. I cannot get blood from a stone.
That's what I imagine auditioning for Steven Spielberg would probably be for me. It would be like, oh God, oh my God, all of my dreams coming true. Oh wow. You got kicked off of Airbnb. How did that happen?
Oh wow, that's really far back. Well, my space got kicked off of Airbnb. I did not get kicked off of Airbnb.
Okay.
So yeah, back in the very early days of Airbnb, I listed the dungeon as like Dungeon West, as like, the sexy space that it was. And then I also listed it as just like a space that people could stay at because it was like in the first year of business. And then I did get a lot of bookings that way in the beginning, and it was fine. And then they just decided no. And it's like I mean, gosh, it was like 10 years ago. And it's such a Kafka-esque like quagmire because they're like, we're kicking you off and there's no way you can respond to this email or ever talk to us again. And we'll never tell you why. And, but then like I couldn't get off their mailing list, and it was, I don't know, whatever. But, yeah, I don't know why. I mean, obviously it was because I was a dungeon, but I've heard some horror stories of people getting like kicked off of Airbnb like otherwise, but I don't know if they're working out of Airbnbs as sex workers, which I've always told people to not do. And I understand that it's cheaper. I understand why you would want to do it, but like, it's really not a very good idea to do that. So don't do that. But yeah,
they were missing out. Some old Betty that reported you from like, hearing noises in the adjacent apartment or something like that.
Well, no, because my spaces are commercial spaces, so no.
Right.
It was something Airbnb specific because everyone who used my space like loved it, so it was something for whatever.
Huh. Yeah, I worked for Airbnb briefly years ago too, and yeah, they're not the best company to work.
Well, what company is? I was reading, actually, it's funny, I was reading a really long article about someone who discovered this like really deep, interesting, like rental scam through Airbnb based in Chicago. And it was like one of these things where, he was going to rent the space and then, the last minute it's not available. Would you like this other space? And he's like, okay, sure. Like I can't, because the excuse was like, the plumbing is fucked, but like, we'll give you this one. So he's like, okay, no problem. And he gets there and he's like, okay, this is okay, but this is like weird. And then he did some investigating and he realized that this happened to everybody else. And it goes on and on and on. But it's like, what was so funny is he shows pictures of it and there's clearly a St. Andrew's cross in the living room, but he doesn't mention it in the article and nobody else mentioned it. And it wasn't a dungeon. It was just, kind of like a shitty rental, but then the St. Andrew's cross is in the middle. And it's a 20-page article, but basically it was like 20 layers deep of like, like one person who owns like all these different apartments and switches all of them because like Airbnb, like they don't have a very good system of like their reviews because the reviews go to all the properties and that's been a huge problem anyway. but and then it finally got traced back. It was like many shell companies, and this guy just like cracked it. And it was like someone actually who lived in Los Angeles or California, but was doing all these like, it was very fascinating. But there was a St. Andrew's cross in the living room and no one mentioned it. Everyone's like, I knew Airbnb was evil and this. And I mean, we all use them and it is good for that, but it's like, you know, it's very,
there are so many scams out there. It's just, it's not unbelievable, but it's just
this one was really
aggravating.
Yeah, this one was really deep though. It was very elaborate. It was like this person was making like more than 6 figures like out of it. Like it was like a whole company to do all this. It was very
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, I know a lot of apartment buildings have written it into their lease contracts that you can't do that because, you know, they don't want it like in the building.
Oh, well, it doesn't matter anymore anyway, because in Los Angeles, I think it was November 1st or something, sometime last year that it was, you know, you have to have a permit and you have to have a certain, it has to be your primary residence or you have to live there and, you know, all of these things. So it's, you know, shaking out a lot more rentals. And I'm sure a lot of people are, you know, losing their shit right now because they were flipping apartments and keeping a lot of people out of them. And, you know, it's unfortunate because it's like, you know, we don't want to prevent people who are renting out their room or, you know, an extra room or two in their apartment to like make rent or to have extra income. But like places that were literally building up who owned entire apartment buildings and they were just Airbnb-ing all of them. That's who needed to be stopped. Not like, you know, Susan who's renting out her spare guest bedroom, who's retired or disabled.
Leave Susan alone.
It's just, yeah, it's just really sad. So, and also Airbnb for in Los Angeles, they stopped doing certain unique Airbnbs. So like if you had like a yurt or a trailer, you couldn't do that. You can't do that anymore also. So that stopped a lot of things. So yeah, it's interesting. And a lot of apartment rentals now, because I've been looking once in a while, they were clearly renovated for the purpose of Airbnb only. So they don't actually make sense if you are a person who is living there. It's like they'll do things like they've converted like everything into a bedroom, but there's like no living room, you know? So it's just like weird stuff like that. So yeah.
I've stayed in a lot of those weird bedrooms too throughout LA. It gets pretty strange, including staying 2 different times with some drug dealers. I've had a long adventure in my 8 years.
What were they Airbnb-ing? I guess they were really terrible drug dealers.
Oh, it's been a ride. You do have degrees in literature and psychology. How much of that do you think you have, especially with the psychology degree, bringing that into what you do?
Yeah, you know, people always ask me that, and really nothing.
Not at all.
Nothing. Yeah, it really isn't. I mean, I can't really run a double blind test to see how much, but you know, I think that all it does is that it makes me understand it makes me a better reader in terms of what is written to me. And, you know, I can understand like studies better and read articles better and like thus write better. And it's not so much being more intelligent, but it's like understanding how people can talk about data and how they can fudge it and, you know, things like this. And this is why, you know, I am still taking 7 months in, I am still taking quarantine just as seriously as I did day one, because I'm not, you know, looking to like CNN or like MSNBC for my news reports. I'm reading peer-reviewed scientific journals. I'm reading the New England Journal of Medicine. You know, I'm reading these things. So this is why I am not seeing clients in person. And this is why I'm very limited. So, that's how it's affecting things now. I'm sure I miss people, but for all I know, some of my clients have COVID. For all I know, some of them have died. And, I was on the phone with someone the other day from Australia, and he was telling me, oh yeah, no, things are terrible here. Like, we're still like a full lockdown and whatever. And I said, you only have like 5 new cases a day. Do you understand that America has something like, or Los Angeles, I think has like 40,000 new cases a day or deaths. I can't remember. I'd have to look at the exact data. And I said, oh,
no matter where you check, it's a hell of a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. And I said, oh, wow, I wonder how many of these people are my clients, and it was kind of more, and he was laughing because it was kind of a dark joke, but I'm serious. Like, I will not know. I won't know if my clients have died of COVID. And I normally travel all over the country and all over the world to see clients. And, I don't know. We'll see if and when I ever go on tour again, who writes me back? Like, I don't know.
I hope not. But there are just way too many cases, no matter how you slice it. Not especially and specifically here in our country because of all the reasons. But it's terrifying around the world. My partner, who's a doctor, sees it all the time. She's in Chile, and she actually just saved the life of a COVID patient who was having some pretty severe lung reactions to getting it. This was about a week ago, I guess. And yeah, she sees more and more cases all the time, and it's really, 6-7 months in now, it's still way out of control, more so than it ever should be. And I swear I won't go very far into politics land because it'll just make me vomit. But I have been like, I've been, removing more friends than ever on Facebook from not so much all of the other ridiculous things that he continues to do, but just all the things that are COVID related and how that specific situation has been mishandled, because we keep losing lives, and I learn about someone new every day, every other day that has it or knows someone who has it, and it's just terrible. So you're definitely doing the right thing and practicing social distancing and working at all that you can virtually, because it's really a mess.
Thank you. I mean, I'm definitely in a place of privilege where both myself and my partner are able to have careers where we can do this 100% virtually, and our income level has remained the same. And quite honestly, it's increased, and it will continue to increase because I can make more money online than I can, seeing people in person and doing the things other things that I used to do in person. Because again, I'm not just seeing clients, I'm doing productions and other video, things like this. So, and I understand that. And it's hard. It's really hard because, I'm having a situation right now with my family members where they're having an in-person event, and I'm devastated because it's so hard to draw boundaries because, one, I wasn't invited, so I wasn't going to go. It's very far away, but, you can say I'm not going to go, but it's really hard to see people, just regular idiots sucking. Yeah. It's harder when it's people and people close to you. And what my partner and I always do, we just come back to this. We say, we can only control ourselves. We can only control, each other, our household. There are 3 people in our quarantine bubble, me, myself, and I. I'm not a narcissist. So myself, my partner, and Jack. And we just say to each other, almost daily, we are so grateful for each other that we are taking it the same level of seriousness. We're taking all the same level of precaution. So then that means that we can hang out together in person, close, without masks. But right after this, I'm going to a park with friends, and we're going to either wear masks or we're going to be 6 feet away from each other. And that feels like fine to us, and that's comfortable. And, there are so many I think part of it, we're very lucky. We live in Los Angeles. How many amazing events are happening that are in person, but are social distancing? Like, I love fine dining. There is a fine dining 10-course drive-through dinner. I can't go because I'm closing the dungeon, but that's what's happening. And, you know, other people in like the shitty suburbs of any state, wherever, they don't have that. They've had nothing. There's nothing. So they can't translate their in-person party to something else. We can translate our, you know, fine dining experience into something else that's safe. There is no translation for them to do something else because they don't, I don't know what Zoom is. They don't want to translate that. And
Right.
we've already felt like, oh, well, everything has been sucky for so long. And all we can do is have a party now in person, even though it's not safe. And that's their rationale. And that's everyone else times 100 million people, you know, unfortunately. So, but
Yeah, it's a whole different paradigm, and people are still getting used to it, and people are still very much rallying against it. Idiots. But you know, you just have to do all that you can at a distance, just like we're doing here. And boy, oh boy, have I upgraded my knowledge about technology and about Zoom and about virtual recording and all of that business. And you know, you just have to play the cards as they fall. That's really my partner and I. We have been sharing virtual meals and doing lots of, you know, FaceTimes and sending each other voice memos, and it's really romantic, to be honest. It's really
yeah,
it's yeah.
yeah, I've had several long distance relationships even years ago. I dated someone in Dubai when I lived here, and that was like bananas. I mean, and also he traveled a lot too, so we weren't always like the time zone apart. But one of my friends is her sister is dating someone, and it's like they're courting because they're both in LA, but it's like they sit on the porch but like 6 feet away from each other.
Right.
And they're having all these conversations about you know, safety and what they're doing. And they're both going to get like tested and then get tested again and all these things. And it's interesting. I've been thinking about this a lot as someone in BDSM and being queer. I talk about safety all the time. It's very much a part of my lexicon. It's a part of my daily life with my friends, with my lovers, with my clients. I am always talking about safety. And it is a disservice that I am so annoyed at people who don't understand what this conversation means, because people are not in BDSM, they're not queer, and they just have never thought about safety before in the same way that I have pretty much every day for the last 10 years. And, you know, we've also just blown it in terms of everything that's happened since the AIDS crisis because of sex education, where we've completely blown it and never had, you know, in terms of just having honest conversations about sex education in terms of STDs and how contagious they are and how to get them. So this was our opportunity for the last, oh my God, 50 years to have these conversations about how diseases are contagious and how you get them and how to prevent having them. And that history and conversation has been completely lost. So I'm not at all surprised this is happening. It is terribly unfortunate. However, I feel like even if we had the best person in charge right now, a lot of this would still be happening because of so many things that have happened before here, you know, and that's unfortunately where we are. So
Yep, absolutely. It is incredibly unfortunate, and I don't want to, you know, it's absolutely terrible, and it's been terrible for, you know, since mid-March. But also, as you just said, we've had, it has helped us as a community, as a culture, as a people, as a country, as a global unit, to have a lot more conversations, to have a lot more important conversations, to really talk about how disease spreads, how it doesn't spread, how to protect yourself. I am a registered germaphobe. I have been for 15 plus years. I keep a pack of wet ones in my pocket pretty much all the time. I've changed various wipes and devices over the year. I used to carry the little bottle of sanitizer, but boy, that, you have to be careful with those because the cap pops open and then it looks like you pissed your pants, and which has happened to me more times than I care to admit. So I started carrying the wet ones. It is an amazing system. I got to tell you, I keep trying to get Wet Ones to sponsor the show, because if there's any show that they should sponsor, it's this one, because I keep like a whole box of them in my bathroom in the cabinet. This is way more than you need to know, but I just mean like I am hyper prepared
Oh, that's
all the
good.
time. I don't touch doorknobs. I don't touch handles. Like
I don't.
I mean, anything in any sort of public place, especially restaurants, specifically gas stations, anything of that nature, I would never even, it freaks me out just to think about it, because pin pads, the worst. So, always carry that protection,
Yes.
because you never know.
Yes. Well, same here. I mean, I've, having both dungeons, I've been very prepared in terms of like having all the wipes and alcohol and Ceridol and stuff like these. And in the beginning, before everything got shut down, people were talking about what they were doing and cleaning their office spaces or various places. And you're just like, oh my God, you never cleaned anything before. And meanwhile,
Right.
like everything is wiped down, not like excessively, but just everything is cleaned and wiped down always, like in my house and in my dungeon. So anyway,
All
well,
those times that I would be, at Carl's Jr. or whatever, and see them using that rag to wipe off the tables that they've been using all day and probably all week, and it just like freaks me out. So like, because I'll take out a wet wipe and wipe down the table, the chair. I'm
yeah,
ridiculous, but also, now everybody gets it. Welcome to my world.
yeah, all the germaphobes rejoice.
Oh,
They're like, well,
oh,
welcome. Yeah.
I'm telling you
So,
what, Justine, it's been a true pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much for joining me. I know people can find you a lot of places. Where can they find you on social media, should they choose to look?
yeah, well, I hope they're already looking. They've already started. Yeah. Well, my main website is losangelesdominatrix.com. So please always go there. That's where all the good stuff is. You can find me on Twitter as Justine Plays. You can also find me on Instagram as the Justine Cross. I think I've also signed up for TikTok as Justine Plays, but I've done nothing with it yet. I'm trying to
I
figure out
can't
what to
wait.
do with it. And yeah, that's where I'll be. But yeah, just make sure you are going to the main site, losangelesdominatrix.com. I'm very easy to find. There's a lot of information there in terms of classes, which we didn't really talk about, but I am doing all my classes live, and then I'm also recording them. So the recording is available, and that's all on Gumroad, but everything is on the website, losangelesdominatrix.com.
Yeah, you have a lot of basic tutorials and sort of playthroughs. You also have tours of both your dungeons that I found on YouTube, that people can easily find if they want to, check out your vibe and your facilities and how you go about things. So
Yes, I'm also on YouTube, but I don't do much with it other than post videos that other people have done of me. So check out my playlist on YouTube. I think I have like one video up, and yeah, I should. Oh yeah,
and a few.
yeah, good. Yeah. No, but they're all other people did, and so yeah,
Yeah, okay.
that's why they're so good. The ones that I.
Oh, I also forgot to mention too. You appeared with one of my other favorite sexual educators, Shan Boodram, on her Clippy show.
Yes. Yeah, we recorded that like, oh my God, it feels like forever ago. It was like in February. Yeah. So I forget what episode it is because it's like a strange, it's on my website, what episode it is. But yeah, that was great. We did like a little, tour of the dungeon and showed her some things. And then I haven't watched it, but then after me, she brings in a couple and then they do some stuff. So, but I wasn't there for that.
I watched
part.
it.
So I just got to play with Anne, and now she's pregnant, but wasn't me. I don't know. Like that was like right after that. It was
Are
like
you
she was
sure?
pregnant. You know what? She is like the second woman I have done. I have shot a show with, and right after she got pregnant, because she got pregnant right after that show, and then Princess from Hip Hop Hollywood also got pregnant right after. I don't know.
Wow.
A little stuff, wasn't me. Well, it's not mine, Anyway, well, yeah, they're all different.
I love it. Shan is amazing. I was one of her. I appeared in one of her early episodes too, as like, talking to Dirty Talk, and she was interviewing people in North Hollywood, and she is just so damn smart, and such a wealth of knowledge, and her sexology on Quibi is really their best content. If you're going to get Quibi for any reason, that's really why you want to get the subscription, is for her show.
Yeah, I don't know if that show is going to make it. I mean, that network. I mean, if Chrissy Teigen couldn't get it to work, unfortunately, they launched like right before quarantine or during quarantine, and it like never. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen there. So we'll see. But yeah, we're on it. We're great. She's amazing.
I mean,
so there you go.
I had a great time. So yep, check that box.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me, Devlin. I appreciate being part of your show.
Thank you so much, Justine. It was a pleasure meeting you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Great. You too. Take care.
Take care.
Remember, you can follow me, as always, across all the places at Devlin Wilder. That's DEVLINWILDER. And Faux Real at Faux Real Pod. That's FAUXREALPOD. That's it for this one. See you on the next one.